I wonder if I could ask you to go back to maybe your 20s or something, of what got you really excited when you began seeing what you might do and what your future could be, or what you seemed to be especially enthusiastic about that led you down this path. What turned you on first? Young, you could have played football.
I came from a conventional family, happy marriage, good siblings, etc. My parents' friends were wonderful people, so I had just fabulous people. In fact, I used to say I have a great trouble in Los Angeles finding people as fine as the people I used to know in Omaha. And I had a very unusually desirable situation as a young boy. And so did Warren, although he was more unhappy when he was young than I was. It just happened. I think a lot of it was what was born in, and a lot of it was the proper training and proper background. My grandfather Munger had been born in extreme poverty. His two parents were school teachers in a little town in Nebraska, and 2 school teachers' income enabled him to buy the meat for dinner every night at the butcher shop in the little town he lived in Nebraska. And he went to the butcher shop with a nickel, and he bought the parts of the animal nobody else would eat. Now, if you start life that poor and make your own way, which my grandfather did, you're quite a fellow. And he was self-educated, and not self-educated in a rudimentary way. I mean, he spoke Greek and Latin self-educated. I had very interesting people as my examples. And my grandfather Munger believed down to the soles of his feet in being rational. And he worked at it. And I watched it, and of course it had worked well for him. It had made him district attorney and president of the Bar Association, and finally a very young federal judge, and he served as the only federal judge in his capital city for almost 40 years. I mean, he had a splendid life. And he always lived way below his income and was able to help other people when they needed help. He was a very good example. And he was kind of firm about it. He never took a drop of liquor in his whole life. Somebody asked him once, "Why don't you drink?" And he says, "Why would I take money out of my pocket and put something in my mouth that would make my head work less well?" Well, you can say why I like my grandfather. And he was politically incorrect when my parents got married. He came, he looked around the congregation, and came time for him to make a toast. He said, "Well," he says, "I'm always particularly optimistic at a wedding when I see the same kind of people on both sides of the aisle." Well, that's not politically correct, but it's a very understandable sentiment. And so anyway, I had these good people around me, and a very interesting time of peace and so forth.